So you get this scene at the beginning of the game, like you just explained, where there's this interracial couple. So clearly the people in Colombia are racist. Okay. And they end up making that very, very clear throughout as the game progresses, that basically any black people you come across are, like house servants and things like that.
At best.
Right. Oh yeah. There's implications that there's abuse as well. And it's same deal. Not quite as bad, but there are Asian people in Colombia as well that just have a lower social status than all the high status people that you've seen, so far.
Well, and that, so it's, those are the two more obvious, but then also there is also, and again, it's something that they're sort of like harkening back to at that sort of period in time in American history. The Irish were actually looked upon as incredibly unfavorably. And it's a little harder to see, but even there, like, there are the different audio logs. That's a mechanic from the original game. Like, they bring that back.
That's true. Yeah.
And you kind of listen to some of these things, and it's like they'll talk disparagingly about like their Irish laborers. There's a whole section of the game where you're sort of infiltrating this factory, and the guy is basically like he's basically he talks about, he's like, making the worthless Irishman worthwhile kind of thing, like and so there's a lot of, again, that sort of there's the more blatant racism against black and Asians, blacks and Chinese, or then there's the much more subdued racism sort of. But again, like all three of these people, they exist in Colombia, but they're all, at best, they're like second or third class citizens. But like,
right,
they're mostly,
and you're not seeing them walk around outside either.
Yeah.
They're so. Yeah. I would say initially in playing the game, I thought I kind of rolled my eyes at these depictions, because while I am not saying that these things didn't happen, I feel that in the game it is portrayed in a very ham-fisted way. It is not subtle. It is like, oh, anyone who is not as fair as Snow White in this game is like, oh, looked down upon.
Yeah,
like, there's no one that shows compassion.
If your gene pool doesn't pour right off the mountains of Caucasus,
right, yes, and it's very much like you don't come across anyone who's compassionate. You don't come across people who, like, I mean, what you mentioned earlier. Oh yeah, let's take the worthless Irishman and give him a purpose by letting him, run all our machinery, or teach him how to do these different things. That's like the closest that you get. But I felt that the racism in this game was very ham-fisted. So I did not think it was, a courageous thing. We're going to depict racism. I do think there's more nuance, even in our own American history, than what this game presents. Okay. And that's not to deny like obvious, racism in our past. Okay. I'm not denying it, but I'm saying I think this game is ham-fisted in the way that it comes across.
I was just going to say, I think like that's one of the things, and Levine's a bit of an auteur, like, and his whole, like, but he's very cynical, right? Like, I just think in regards to human nature and the variety of human expression. And so even sort of, this is something in the original Bioshock, like, I remember he like reading something where he said like he wanted to play with objectivism, like the Randian objectivism, but he wanted to insert real people. Like, he was basically sort of playing with like the Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged, but instead of sort of having these idealized sort of heroes, he was like, what if we just put real people in there? And I think that that's a really interesting thought experiment. But again, ultimately, I think like he's sort of cynical in sort of his portrayal of real people. and it's like you're going to get a much more nuanced sort of response and expression. And yeah, so like I think like that's the thing, is like there's not a lot of subtlety. It's just it is ham-fisted, and that's kind of where like I think where some of the artfulness kind of breaks down a little bit, and because it's just like okay, like racists are bad, like
right.
It's like,
yes, exactly.
It's like, hey, let's kill racists and let's kill Nazis. It's like it's the same.
Right.
It's like it's kind of like the same. Yeah, okay, and it's not to be like, hey, but it's like the human experience is a lot more nuanced than that, and so
I mentioned how I watched through Star Trek: The Next Generation, and I feel like a lot of the things that they deal with in that show, they actually provide nuance. They provide different points of view. They allow you to, they have a resolution, but they also allow you to really kick around the difficulties of different positions and things like that. So this game does not do that. Okay. So it put a bad taste in my mouth in terms of that. Okay. It's that's not like it is not the main plot line, but it is very apparent throughout the game. Okay.
I think some of it is this, that like a way to is like there's no righteous white people, like, and I don't want to,
right.
It's like you kind of say that, and it's like, but yeah, it's like, no, all the white people in here are bad. It's like, okay, neat,
right.
like
exactly, yes,
but also it kind of makes sense too, because like later on, like you see that like there's pictures of like, and there's even like a cult, and again, it's not they don't go into it a ton, but like Abraham Lincoln is reviled, in Colombia. He's portrayed, there's actually a mural, I don't know if you remember seeing it, but it's like George Washington leading the forces of Colombia, and then it's or the Confederacy, and then Lincoln and the armies of the Union, and Lincoln is portrayed as a demon, like as devilish. And so there's actually a cult in the game that actually sort of venerates John Wilkes Booth for assassinating the great oppressor. And so like it makes sense in sort of even in the framework of the game, but again, it's really pretty ham-fisted.
Yeah. So with all that and that kind of in my mind of like, this is an annoying thing that's constantly within this game. What ends up happening probably 3/4 of the way throughout the game, I'm not going to go into detail, but basically you end up teaming up with the Vox Populi, the voice of the people in Latin, that are these basically third-class citizens that are just looking to revolt against it. And you understand why, because they've been abused, because they've been oppressed in this society. So it makes sense. You end up joining with them and fighting against the oppressors. And this is where the turn was for me. So even though up to this point, like it had been, again, I keep using this term, but laid on very thick and like I said, ham-fisted, what ends up happening is that, long story short, the leader of the Vox Populi, when finally faced with some of the characters that are oppressors, violently murders these people and basically become and doesn't just want equality, but wants to take over.
She wants to annihilate
to
them.
Me, right? And that to me was like, okay, this is actually interesting. So it's not just so. Even though it doesn't show any nuance for the oppressors, it also shows the impact of revenge. That it does not show that therefore those who are oppressed are all good. No, actually, it shows, hey, given the same choice to oppress others, we're all going to be tempted towards that. And in this case, they fall to that. They end up becoming, let's just tear it all down, no matter who has to die in the process.
Yeah.
We're going to burn this to the ground. And I was very surprised that that was the message that was given, because I'm used to a lot of modern media that would say, no, the oppressors are always evil and the oppressed are always good, and they will do what's right and good, and the oppressors will get what's coming to them. And this says, it's a good thing to fight against that, but also that they're going to be caught up in it, that revenge is ultimately going to consume those who are looking purely for revenge.
Yeah.
So I appreciated that. That's probably the best theme, even though, again, it's a very dark theme because there's no good guys. I actually really appreciated it. And it's funny to me that a lot of, if you search around online, the game gets a lot of flack for doing this, especially to that leader character, Daisy, and how she brutally murders people. The game gets flack because they're like, whoa, she's not supposed to be doing this. She's supposed to be a good guy, and this is actually problematic that you would have this person doing this. It's like, well, yeah, it's problematic because it's actually showing the heart of humanity, not of white people all bad.
Well,
it's like,
but again, it's just more of that cynical take where it's like,
right.
it's just like Levine is just revealing, like, sort of like, the
human condition.
Like, well, and like almost like a contempt for humanity, where he's like, yeah, there's nothing good here on either side. Like, it's just garbage on both sides. Like, and again, it's like, I just, the human condition and the human expression of, like, even in these scenarios, he makes it sort of way more binary than it actually is. And again, I think he sort of reveals a bit of like just cynicism towards humanity. And to a certain extent, I would agree with him. Like, yeah, people kind of suck,
Sure.
But like, I think too. So yeah, definitely when he's sort of, because it is the game sort of in some ways, like, we're just conditioned to be like, okay, like the rebellions, like it's that's going to be like the virtuous side of things,
right?
And then it's like, even the way that you first come into contact with them, it's really like, hey, actually they kind of suck. Like, yeah, they might be a little desperate, but like also, like, they suck because and sort of going back is like, before you run into the Vox Populi, you actually get to this tower and you meet Elizabeth, the girl that you're supposed to rescue, that you need to take back to New York City. And you get her out of her tower, and that's where you come into contact with the songbird and everything, who, instead of like having big daddies, now there are these like sort of like these George Washington automaton things that are kind of cool. They're big daddy-esque. And there are the handymen, who are basically men who, they're like steampunk cyborgs, essentially, I guess is like what I would. The handymen are kind of adjacent to the big daddies, but like, you have the songbird, which is this massive, they never explain what it is, like, which is like, at least not in the main game, which is kind of unfortunate, because like, I was like, it's such a cool design. Like, but it's Elizabeth's guardian, essentially. And, and so you come into confrontation with that, and you actually steal an airship, and you go to escape. And then Booker basically lies to Elizabeth and says, I'll take you to Paris. And he's like, he punches the coordinates in to go to New York. She kind of freaks out and bonks him on the head. And that's when things go sideways. And that's when you come into contact with Daisy and the Vox Populi. And again, they've hijacked your blimp and your airship. And but yeah, and so it's just one of these things where it's kind of like, it's villains all the way down, man.
Right. Right.
Everybody kind of sucks. Like
Yep.
there are people who are being oppressed, and instead of the reaction to be overthrow the oppressors and, you know, sort of establish justice, right? It's overthrow the oppressors, and then destroy them and make them the oppressed now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, so it's pretty grim.